than I anticipated. And my other surgeries for a knee and shoulder replacements and that, they were a lot simpler than this. Not well.
Yeah. Then your spine.
Yeah, your spine gets a little more complicated. They should have told me that before.
Oh, well, it's good to see you.
But it'll be all right.
All right, everybody, we're going to call the meeting of September 26th to order. We will start with the land acknowledgement. Councilor Park, would you like to?
I'd be honored. The Chinookian people known as the Clackamas and Cascades are the indigenous people of the land now inhabited by the city of Wood Village and other areas of the Columbia River. The village of the Neechaklee was located near today's Blue Lake Park. Ancestral life of these people included a seasonal round of resource gathering and stewardship of the Wapato fields and fishing areas of the Columbia River, to the cedar and huckleberry gathering areas of the High Cascades. Introduced disease from early settlers dramatically reduced the number of these people. They signed the Willamette Valley Treaty of 1855 with the United States government and were forcibly removed to the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation. We thank the descendants of these tribes for being the original stewards and protectors of these lands since the time immemorial. We also acknowledge the systematic policies of genocide, relocation, and assimilation that still impact many Indigenous and Native Americans families today. We are honored by the collective works of many Native nations, leaders, and families who are demonstrating resilience, resistance, revitalization, healing, and creativity. We are honored to be guests upon these lands.
Thank you. Now we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Well, thank you. We'll start with citizen comment on non-agenda items.
We have no comments.
All right, and then we'll just thank the mayor and Councilor Amen for joining us virtually, and then we'll go ahead and do resolution 22-2023.
All right. Thank you very much, Council President and Mayor and those visiting remotely this evening. So this is resolution 22-23 for waste management solid rate adjustment. So Waste Management is the solid waste provider in the city, and their franchise enables a 10% rate of return on what they collect and use throughout our city. The last rate increase was in July of last year, and this is predominantly due to increased fees at Metro, partly because of the 2030 solid waste plan that we've gone over years ago. I think it was a 2019, 2020 kind of plan, looking out to 2030 and looking differently at the way in which solid waste is handled. That required a lot more investments from both the haulers as well as Metro itself with new requirements. That coupled with the declining, I'll call it recyclables commodity market that happened just about a year or two prior to that. Just cost increased and revenue sources decreased. So we've seen for the past few years annual rate increase requests from Waste Management, but in the tune of 2 or 3% generally. So 50 cents to $1 for residential side, a bit more than on commercial because it's based on volume or weight. So it's not just a straight, we need 2.3 or 3%. It's based on the weight because that's what generates their costs. So Metro increases tipping fees just a little bit ago. And so Waste Management is requesting rate to cover that. So this was included in the packet and the full rate schedule is attached in there, but this is more of the common services and where the rate is going under that proposed column to our neighbors. And as you can see, we're closest to Troutdale. We're a little bit under in some areas, a little over in others, but certainly well below the other area cities. Now, we do have Dave Huber and Mike Jeffries from Waste Management here this evening, if they want to step forward and talk a little bit more about their operations and what the increases for I Built this time for them.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I'm Mike Jeffries, Dave Huber. And unfortunately, I was here last year telling you about the rate increase that we were putting forth and hoping to keep the rates steady for a couple of years because that's what we like to do. But unfortunately, we knew about Metro's increases, and that's really what's driving the need for this rate adjustment at the present time. It's just more or less a pass through in the disposal costs associated with our. With that, I guess we could answer any questions you may have on that calculation or anything you may have.
We'll start with the mayor and Councilor Min. Any questions?
I have a question. Go ahead, Councilor
Oh,
Mann.
well, mine's probably, simple. I'm thinking when you say 10% rate of return, that's to the company. Sorry, I don't understand that.
Sure.
Yes, Councilor Amen. So the franchise agreement we hold with Waste Management means that they can profit 10% on what they collect as their profit.
I see. Okay, thank you. And sorry, thank you. That's
Nope,
really
great
helpful.
question. Yeah.
The question I have, I appreciate that we have these rate increases. It's inevitable, and I do think you do your best to limit those. You have, and I reminded myself as I went through these rates this afternoon, that we do not pay, users do not pay for lawn debris or the regular recycling Kirby. What has been a kind of a constant for us in our household is that you always have to cancel if you're not using that, or cancel if we're not using the residential, or it gets automatically billed. That's correct, isn't it?
I believe what you're talking about, if you were to go on a vacation and wanted a vacation hold, well, yes, we would want you to call in so we wouldn't bill you for the services when you're not there. But other than that, if you're a resident and you sign up for service, we would bill you anticipating that you're going to be setting out your containers on a weekly basis.
And then, all right, that's you've answered that question. And again, the yard debris and all that, Kirby, we're just not, users are not billed for that.
Gotcha. So, I mean, there is an opportunity, I believe, to opt out of some programs. And you could look into that, but the rates that we propose is a bundled rate, which would include service for your garbage, your recycling, and your yard debris service.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Questions?
First of all, I'd like to appreciate the work that your people do for you. We wave to them every single Wednesday morning as they go by, or all throughout the day as they go about their business. We want you to know that they do an excellent job in the work that they perform for us. And I'm speaking as a citizen, not as a counselor, that as well. But I mean, just the awesome, they're just great. And I watch them from 3 different angles from my house. So they're just wonderful. The biggest thing that I got out of this, reading this, was it says Waste Management indicates that the rate increase would not be necessary unless Metro adopted a rate increase. And I thought that was commendable. I would like to know why you are not doing that. My first thought was, is it because you guys are all on natural gas with your vehicles and the rate increase of fuel is not there? Is that probably the number one reason?
Well, one, obviously we're trying to be as efficient as possible, and, natural gas definitely is cheaper than diesel. So that certainly has helped keep the costs down over the years. And, we were before you the previous year for a rate adjustment, which then took into consideration a lot of our operating costs. But what this increase that we're talking about is truly outside of our control. And that's why it's such a small increase, that 2% that we're really looking at. So,
Unfortunately, I wasn't here last year, but I've been here in previous years on the council. So yeah, I don't remember what our rate increase was, and I didn't really pay attention to it on the bill either. So luckily. Yeah. Case here.
Years ago, probably over 10 years ago now, Waste Management came forward and they hadn't been in front of you all for several years. And so the rate increase was quite noticeable. I can't remember the percentage, but it was dollars worth. And so the direction by that council at the time was, hey, we understand cost shifts, cost change. It'd be great if you come more often and take more small bites at an increase instead of giant leaps and bounds. And so prior again to kind of 2018-19, when the recyclable things fell apart, and then the 2030 plan, we would see about every third year, give or take, with that kind of 2 or 3% increase. But since about 2020, it's been about 2%, kind of marching along, kind of based on several factors, operations, but also Metro. Not blaming Metro. I mean, they've got obligations and things they need to do too. So it's just things are just costing more. We can't do solid waste like we used to, which is put it in a hole and forget about it.
Right.
You remember the old days of waste management, or solid waste management, I mean.
Right. Yeah, since I was into the business myself. They also have long hauls to do, and I don't know if natural gas would be able to provide them for the distance that they have to travel anyway, but that's for them to decide. But anyway, thank you very much.
thank you for the compliment too.
Yeah, no, I appreciate, the partnership that we have with the city, and then kind of hearing that information from Greg, that you guys have been mindful and not waiting until the huge increase and, trying to anticipate smaller and smaller, because our community is, more on the lower income. So, big chunks they're felt different than smaller bites and things like that. And you said this was something unforeseen by Metro's increase. Do you guys anticipate a whole bunch more coming, in the next 5 to 10 years per se, just because again, how things are moving, legislation as well. And so I know they're going to have to adjust on some of those mechanisms. So it is going to directly affect you all and then eventually affect us as well. So.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I'll try to answer it. When they made this decision just a few months back to raise the rates, they also indicated that this is most likely going to continue for the next few years. So unfortunately, I think we're going to see this again, course of the next few years. And they usually don't make that decision until, is it July, Mike?
Yeah, usually about May, we'll know next year what their regional system fee increase is going to look like, as well as their excise tax. And those are the two calculations that they have. And then they also have their current rate that they have at their involves being subsidized to some degree, but there's more talk about how they're going to get to more of the actual cost of service of the transfer stations, and that'll have some impact. But for us, Wood Village, your material goes to the Troutdale transfer station that we operate. So there's a couple items within that contract that we use the same long hauler that Metro uses. So that is usually a cost that we have that's the same as Metro, as well as the disposal rate at the landfill. But typically our operational costs may be a little higher or lower, and that's something we're working on right now to try to reduce, so that hopefully in future years we can keep that increase to a minimum.
And then of course, you've got this crystal ball that we're all looking at with the American Auto Workers, what's going on there and how that's going to impact us over the next 5-10 years too.
Yeah.
It's just going to continue to increase and follow, the minimum wage that drives it all. So. Oh, and the other thing is, thank you so much for the waste collection, large item day. Man, that's a huge big deal that didn't want to leave that out either.
Yeah, we love cleanup day.
That was a very popular event. I stopped there for maybe an hour and.
Yeah, then you got out of there like, they're going to put me to work if I stick around any longer.
Good thing I didn't bring gloves, yeah.
I think Counselor Amon had her hand raised.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yes, it took me 15 minutes to figure out how to raise it, but I did it. Just for the sake of clarification and for all our viewers at home, none of them, where can people access information? Like the quickest way to access information about their bill? Like there's the portal online. If they have questions beyond that, should they call? My experience with your customer service is excellent, but like, what would you prefer? Like email, like if people have more questions.
Yeah, I'll take that answer or that question. And I would say that there's a couple of good avenues. What I like to tell people is, everybody likes, there's all these apps out there, but our company does have an app, the WM app. And if you download that app and you have your customer ID number, you can set it up to where you can see your bill and your invoice, and it's really pretty easy. I think.
Next day of service, things of that nature.
Exactly.
Right. Does it also list about the increases and information about that? Is that where they would find that information? I guess is what I'm asking.
For that, we would probably recommend going to our WM Northwest website, where you could then select Wood Village, and it would have a rate schedule there that would show you the rates that are going into place.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah, I always try to ask just in case, talking to neighbors. And one last question is, did you have that on the slide? Like how much this will go up per household? Was there an estimate?
I'll go back to the previous slide here in a minute.
Okay, thank you.
Popular service is a 35 gallon. That's going up, I think, 65 cents a month.
Okay, thank you.
And I can send you the info for the local WMNorthwest.com.
I was going to mention, we actually already link it on our website because we have other providers, whether it's Northwest Natural, PGE, where we link directly to those websites, and ours goes to that Wood Village specific one.
Perfect. Awesome.
Sweet. Thanks, Greg.
Greg, we could also, and I think you do this, is put it into our newsletter.
Yeah, and we already put it in the last edition of the newsletter, as well as the Outlook ran it, and it's been on our webpage and social media in advance of this hearing this evening. And I'll get to that on the next slide.
That's what I thought.
Sorry about that, Greg.
Nope, no issue.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So really quick, I'll just go back one slide so you can kind of peek at those rates. So it's split between residential and commercial for kind of the most common services. And you'll see current and then proposed. So that's what the new rate will be if approved for October 1st. And then that dollar amount change there. So again, for residential, the most common service, 65 cents. And then for anything larger than that, it's still kept under $2.
But last question, and I think this is something I asked last year and was, as the holidays are coming in, the disposal of the tree, I think it was mentioned that your tree could be set out and replaced.
In lieu of your yard debris unflocked, I think anything over 6 feet has to be cut in half.
Yeah.
Yes.
So looking at our upcoming
newsletter, and we'll run social media posts on that too, because I think that's a nice benefit that a lot of people don't realize or remember every time.
Yeah. Thank you.
I had no idea. That's awesome. Thank you.
It has to be unflocked, so none of those neon pink trees. So again, some next steps. Again, we did advertise this on our newsletter. The Outlook also ran an article about it. It was on our website. If approved, the rate would be effective starting October 1st. So that would be the next billing cycle. We do need to open a public hearing for any public comments. We did not receive any in advance of the meeting to share. So it's whatever the audience wants to share with us. And then again, alternatives, you can request a detailed audit of their books to make sure that they're keeping in line with it. We do get a peek at that every year. We never had any concerns with it. So the staff recommendation is go ahead and adopt the resolution with the updated rate schedule, but we'll let the public hearing be opened.
So we're opening public hearing. With none, we will close public hearing.
And so here's our suggested motion.
I move to approve resolution 2223, setting the new rates for solid waste and recycling services in Wood Village effective October 1st, 2023.
Is there a second?
I second.
First and second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
It passes.
Thank you all very much. And thank you again to our waste management representatives for filling in the details.
Thank you.
Okay, good to see you.
Okay, now we will move to park system development charges update with our finance director.
Council President, councilors. For you tonight, we have some more rate increases and adjustments. So we did the water and wastewater SDCs at your last meeting based on the updated master plan. The third SDC that we charge for new houses going in is parks. That helps support all the wonderful infrastructure that's in Donald Robertson Park and any future improvements to the Grand Ronde Wetlands Park. So just to recap, system development charges pay for needed infrastructure. This is based on the master plans. Historically, the Parks Master Plan has been indexed to the Engineering News Report Construction Cost Index. Action tonight would increase fees for system development charges by 3.7%. This table has the current and proposed rates based on the type of business or residence. This increase covers the cost escalation from May of 2022 through September of 2023. The effective date of this change is proposed to be October 1st. And this just shows you the cost index and what it's done over the last couple of years and what the last 4 rate increases have been based on the what's been happening in the construction industry. So not as low as we've had, but it's not been as high as we've had to do in the last 2 cycles. That's the conclusion of my presentation. I'm here for any questions you might have.
Mayor, Councilor Amen, any question?
Yeah, John, do you have questions? I have some.
No questions.
Okay, Seth, I'm so sorry. So this, I just want to make sure I understand. So this is like an annual increase for parks, like maintenance?
So the system development charge is charged when a new business or new resident is constructed. And it's essentially it's a charge to buy into the park's water and sewer system. So all the lovely infrastructure we've already charged ratepayers for and paid for. When new construction comes on, this is kind of their share of that. And it's specifically protected so that it only goes to pay for new capacity growth in any of those systems. So for example, anyone who pays the park system development charge, we can't use that for maintenance on the park. We can only use that to either add amenities to current parks or to purchase new parks.
I see. All right. Thank you. That's very helpful.
Yeah.
And if I can add quickly, the increase, so the original costs were done by engineers for specific projects in the master plan. And for the ENR, that's, engineering news reports, those are construction costs. So all we're doing is simply keeping up with essentially the cost of construction from that original engineer's estimate of a project, keeping up with inflation. So it's essentially the same dollars. So that's where the increase comes into play to make sure we're keeping up with actual construction cost inflation.
Yeah. Anything that gets added would have to be added through an update to the master plans like we had for water and sewer.
Any questions?
No, sir.
Well, Greg, that answered my question, so thank you. With no further questions, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution 23-2023, a resolution adjusting the rate for park system development charges for cost of living.
Is there a second?
Second,
Oh, John will.
First and second, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Solution passes. Now we'll move to utility rates.
Council President, councilors, it's a pleasure to be here again. What does fund the operations of water and sewer is the utility rates that are paid. So we've talked a lot about this recently, and in our July 11th meeting, you had the presentation from Steve Donovan. You had a follow-up presentation from myself on kind of what our initial look at the rate structure was going to be. Last meeting, you had the SDC portion of that, the methodology county changes come forward. This time, we're here to talk about rates that are going to be changing on January 1st, 2024. Your next meeting is when we'll talk about the changes we want to make to the rate structure, but none of those changes will go into effect until January 1st, 2025. There was just a tight timeline to try and get everything done. Not just to get everything done, but then to effectively communicate that if there are going to be any changes, trying to communicate that to people before it shows up on their bill in January. We talked it over and decided that it would be better to propose any of those changes for January 1st, 2025. And that gives us a long lead time to let people know that the change is coming and start to adjust their behavior if we choose to allow them to pay a variable rate on their water and sewer. So this presentation is just dealing with keeping the status quo of our rate structure, but indexing the cost for the increases that we've seen over the last year. So at the July 11th council presentation, Steve Donovan came and talked to you guys about the differences in what the needs were between the two utilities. And he proposed a 4% increase for water, an 8% increase for sewer, driven primarily by the large capital projects that came out in the wastewater master plan update. So what we're bringing to you tonight is essentially that. It's a 4% increase for the water base and volume charge, an 8% increase for the sewer base charge and volume charge. And then we didn't do an updated master plan on streets, and historically, we've just indexed streets for whatever the cost of living has been. And we usually tie that to CPIU rather than the engineering news report, because these are operations costs primarily rather than construction costs. So the cost of living increase based on the CPI was 6.4%. We use a January to January look. That's also what we include for our cost of living adjustment for wages for our union. This just talks about upcoming teasers for water rate and structure increases. And again, to allow for a more robust communication and community engagement strategy if there's any major changes that are approved by council. Overall, between all these water, sewer, and street charges, the overall bill would go about 6.6%, which is a little bit higher than the inflation at 6.4%. But again, that's based off of the master, what's needed for the master plans for both water and sewer. So the effective date, again, of these changes we're proposing tonight would be January 1st, 2024. That'd give us enough time to get in the newsletter for November, so that people would know come January, their water bills will be going up. This is a slide that you guys have seen before. This is the rate comp for well, I'm betting the title says this is a typical single family home residence based on 6 CCF of water usage, which is what we consider kind of a typical single family home. as you can see, and it compares it to our immediate neighbors and some region-wide bills. So for water, we're fairly on the low end. For sewer, we're on the higher end, but that's something that should hopefully not come as a surprise to anyone, because we talk about water and what great shape it's in and the good finances, and how the real struggle has been trying to make sure that we have enough money for our sewer, where we have less control over costs on that side. So this is where we fall for for our comparators. Concludes my presentation for this evening. If you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Mayor, Councilor Min, any questions?
Just a comment from me that I do appreciate us taking action on this now. So just for the reason and reinforce that we do have some ramp up time to get information out to our residents. So I appreciate it coming at this point.
No questions here.
More of a comment myself is that we're barely keeping up with inflation. And I base that on the rest of what our meeting is going to be holding, is that the bids that we have gone out, and then not having anybody bidding on the things that we have, based on the fact that what we're going to be going over, and that's that we're just our boat is slowly sinking. And I see that these rates are low in comparison. And I don't see us in getting ahead in any way or form with what we're doing. I realize that we have to do something to stay kind of neutral, but it's not really going to be helping us in the future. These are increases. In other words, what I'm saying is that we're probably going to have to look at higher increases in the future. Just thinking that out. I'm going to say it out loud. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and as soon as we know the costing, what kind of the cost increases are, as John does a lot of work for preliminary estimates, 50% estimates, 90%, the closer we get to implementing some of these projects, the more we're going to know. We always hope that it comes in less than we project, but it's a balancing act of, do we collect more now or raise rates now in anticipation, or kind of wait a little bit? And so I think the big thing for the recommendation this time is we're hoping with the changes in the rate structure that'll allow some more flexibility to respond to volatility of either changes in construction costs or changes in behavior of people using the system. So
yeah.
And that was also the idea, even though we're still in the exploratory phase of what the design of the new trunk line will look like. We figured that the sewer fund, we know, is not in the best of shape. The recommendation is do 8% in anticipation of that project. So even though it's not being built right now, let's go ahead and march on that path, so we're as prepared as possible.
Yeah, it's not going to get any cheaper. 10 years ago, we were it was so much easier to do these kind of things, and we'd have all kinds of money. I wouldn't say all kinds, but we'd have great funds to be able to do stuff, and bids would come in really cheap because labor sources were out there and people were dying for work. And it's just not the case anymore. Yeah.
Luckily for our own internal operations, we are efficient, we're lean, so that does help. In terms of capital needs, there's a bit of a question mark. So again, we don't have a crystal ball. We do the best we can, trying to anticipate and get ahead.
And so I'm just gonna ask. So this is, your guys' increase for the utility bills for a single family home. When it comes to multi-family homes or like our mobile home parks, is there an increase for them, as obviously the property owners would get that increase themselves? And I guess what I'm trying to say is, if they're going to see a huge increase, how much of an increase are they going to Or are they allowed to do on their
So
residence?
for an
as well?
example, for like apartments, manufactured home parks, if a lot of them now have, they individually meter, the space or the unit, and they are allowed to build their costs back, plus a very small for like admin fee. So they can't charge dramatically more than what they're charged. They can cover kind of their cost of billing,
Mhm.
but they can't make money off it. They can't say, oh, well, their city's doing a call on average 6.6%. We're going to do a 12%. They can cover their costs. That's it.
Perfect. Thank you. That was my question. Okay, with no further questions, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution 2423, updating the master fee schedule, including adjusting the water, sewer, and street utility fees.
Is there a second?
I second.
First and second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And carries. All right, now we'll move to natural hazard mitigation plan update with John.
Thanks, Seth. Good evening, Council President, councilors, Mayor on the phone, and Councilor on the phone. I'm here to present Resolution 25-2023. 2 weeks ago, at the council meeting was presented a discussion for the natural hazard mitigation plan. And it was discussed, this is a 5-year plan required by FEMA if the city wants to get reimbursed for any emergencies or hazard mitigation that may happen within our city limits. The fiscal impact, really from Wood Village, it was staff time, meeting with county emergency management, answering their questions and providing feedback for they compose the plan itself. They received federal funding grants to put together the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. This supports goals 1, 3, 6, and 8. And it is staff's recommendation that council adopt the 5-year plan. And with that, I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Mayor, Councilor Men, any questions?
Sorry.
Go
This might-
ahead, Councilor.
This might be pretty obvious, but where would we find information about the current hazard mitigation plan? Is that on the website as well?
It was in your,
Yes, but the public, sorry.
so I believe there was a link also. So it's on the Multnomah County Emergency Management website, and there's a link there for the entire plan.
Okay, thank
What
you.
we try to do as a city is these are more technical internal documents for county emergency management staff, et cetera. What we try to do on the city's website is not necessarily link directly to those plans or even our own, partly because there's some, I don't want to say secretive stuff, but operational things,
Sure.
terrorist attack, other security things you don't want necessarily just floating out there. But what we try to do is link to like make your own emergency plan, things through FEMA for people to prepare for different types of incidents, disasters, et cetera. So we try to help push communication that, individuals put together their own plan like this for their household. So if when something happens, they're also prepared. And that's actually part of our plan, is helping educate people to prepare themselves. And the standard is 72 hours. You talk to anyone in emergency management, they say that's like the bare minimum. You should really think, 7 to 10 days.
This is why we
Thank
leave,
you.
this is why we leave regional pipelines off of this, right? Okay, yes.
I don't have any more questions. Thank you very much.
Mayor, do you have any questions?
I do not have any questions.
Counselor?
Oh, sir.
Just, that's great. That's great that you kind of mentioned that, Greg, and then kind of, have we thought as a city to provide any, like, come learn how to make a kit type of deal, emergency kit. And again, the reason it becomes more relevant is, yesterday, even though it was only 30 minutes, but again, me and my family found ourselves not prepared for something of that nature. So, I think having some small do-it-yourself type of things, or a list of, in case of an emergency, here is a checkoff list that, FEMA or we as a city think would be great.
So
or
we
something
do a
like that.
couple of things. One, we used to do kind of make your own kit workshops or some other similar workshops pre-COVID. Certainly COVID changed things and we've been kind of re-implementing. What we have been doing though, every newsletter has a different kind of emergency management topic. Sometimes it covers severe weather. Sometimes it covers kind of, FEMA does like a month topic. So every month is a new topic and we try to follow that. That makes sense for Wood Village and its community. And I agree. It also makes sense. People tend to think disaster preparedness, a big earthquake or, a huge thing. It can be simple as a power outage. And what are you going to do? Or a snow or ice or event where you can't get to the grocery store for a day or two. What are you going to do? So, you got to kind of think micro and macro at the same time. And just again, much how we have this plan, families, households, what are their risks? Do you need more medications for family members, for pets? What are the food needs, water needs, special needs for individuals? So again, trying to get that out there so people can start taking some of those first steps of putting together like a kit or at least a base plan of what to do.
And also too, once a year, we put in a newsletter, contacts, like regional contacts, whether it's PGE, whether it's local emergency management, but Metro, whatever it may be. I mean, the list is long. We print that in our newsletter once a year also.
That's great. Just because again, going into the winter, some of these things are more prevalent, outages, severe weather and not being able to move. So I just appreciate the city being and the staff being proactive about it. So,
and, thinking out loud for a minute, years ago, I think it was part of a grant funding, us and Gresham got monies to hold CERT training, which was community emergency response teams. And it's basically taking individual members of the community, getting some baseline training of, think of it like a neighborhood watch or kind of a block captain where, there's base knowledge, how to do things, check on your neighbors and then spread the word. And thinking about the presentation we had last meeting with Senator Gorsuch and some of those emergency management funds, that may be worth exploring where we kind of help train community members to train their neighbors and think of it in that sense. That may be something to look into.
that'd be great.
So last, about 2 weeks ago, we once a year in our neighborhood, we get together and that's part of the package that we do. My wife and I, we manage the part where all the new neighbors come in and anybody who's changed their phone numbers or email addresses or whatever. And then the new ones that have moved in or whatever, we show them the package we've read out of the CERT, whatever, and it shows you where you can put up a sign that says we're okay. So nobody has to break in or do anything. And you can post that in your window and it goes through the list of who is qualified or who has the ability to turn off gas or water or electric or whatever. And then check on your neighbors closest to you and who's going to be assigned to whatever. And so that's another thing that we do. So something that you may want to take up with your neighborhood.
Right. Councilor Men, I saw you put your hand up.
Yeah, I was mainly just putting my hands up for that idea. I was super pumped. So I really like the CERT training. Thank you.
Awesome.
Well,
go ahead.
President, I did go back and look at a couple of my notes on this, and this is more of a probably how you have to score it. But I noticed that in the severe weather category, the high windstorm is not at the highest rating. It doesn't have a star next to it. It has a pyramid, which I would mean less than the highest of dangers. I looked at that and kind of scratched my head a little bit. So John, can you explain how come we wouldn't have a higher wind risk in winter storms? Especially with the various housing we have in the area.
I can try to fill that one, Mayor. First, we can reach out to County Emergency Management. They're the ones that actually scored all these and ranked them based on the data collected. So we can reach out to confirm this. My belief is the risk in high wind events is more loss of power, and with PGE doing more undergrounding, except for the transmission line, and purposeful tree trimming, we're seeing less and less power disruptions for high wind events. And that's my guess of why that specifically is ranked lower than snow or ice, where you have more transportation related impacts and people can't physically get to places. But we're happy to reach out to County Emergency Management to confirm that and pass along their actual answer.
Yeah, and I followed that up with the language in the report that calls out the Wood Village has 3 large mobile home parks where residences could be blown off the foundations by extreme straight line winds or tornadoes. Now, we shouldn't have to worry too much about tornadoes, but as we're seeing is lots and lots of changes in our climate and our weather patterns.
And it was about 14 or 15 years ago, the city, I forget which grant program it was, but actually did manufactured home tie down grants. And I know we went through at least Wood Village Green, but I thought also Poplar. And I believe all of the units are actually tied down to some kind of foundation strapping, which also helps in, more tornado type events and just, a regular east wind type of events.
Well, that could be why we don't, we have a pyramid then instead of a star. So thank you for the report.
Yes.
Thank you.
I would entertain a motion.
Okay. I move to approve the resolution 25/2023 adopting the 2023 natural hazard mitigation plan.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
First and second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Councillor Clark, I commend you on your neighborhood organization there on the risk and the emergency management steps you've taken.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, we're gonna move ahead to discussion of gateway sign and design build.
Give us 1 second here.
Wow. That was pretty.
Yes.
There we go.
All right. Again, good evening, Mayor, City Councilors, Council President. I'm here to give you an update on the gateway entry sign project. So we have 2 gateway signs on 238th, one on the south end, adjacent to Holiday, as Holiday comes into the top of 238th Hill right there. And then the other in the center median at I-84 intersection, just north of Halsey. They were built, installed 2004, rehabilitated in 2009. In current condition, from a distance, look okay. They look all right. Sign's a little faded, timbers maybe a little, weathered, but you get close, they're rotten. It's a hazard. We need to remove them. And so we went out, our approved adopted budget has an allocation. So we went out with a design build RFP and we received 0 bids. Again, kind of seeing the same pattern over and over. So what are the next steps? What is staff going to do about this? City Manager Dirks and staff sat down. Why don't we utilize RH2? So we reached out to RH2. They said, we think we can accommodate the under 20,000 design something for you and get some construction documents out and at least get a RFP out for the construction. Again, it's one of these projects, I think you've heard this before. Too small for the big companies, too big for the small companies, and then to have the expertise of a design build in-house. So that's why, we're decided to separate the design and separate the actual construction. Or that, I should say, that's a recommendation. That's our thought. Right now, we have urban renewal agency monies of $100,000 and street fund of $80,000. So the adopted allocations was $180,000. Again, that's just a reminder, just keeping you up to speed. This project would satisfy support goal number 1. And so this is the current gateway sign. Yeah, 2004, it was great.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're almost 20 years old now. This is kind of what we're similar to this. What we're proposing is maybe some Corbett basalt on the bottom instead of round river rock. A little taller, maybe 36 to 48 inches taller, and have an area where we can hang our city banners for the night out, for the Christmas tree lighting, holiday events. So that's just kind of our thought. This is a city on the coast, and we just kind of plugged our sign in there, and
Is that what?
That's exactly
Yeah.
what we did.
and
I love it.
and so, and actually it was City of Tillamook, and they've been great to work with, the Chamber of Commerce there. They supplied us with some of their construction documents that we shipped over to RH2. And so it's, again, just a concept at this point, but just wanted to give you an update that staff has been working on this project, and that's kind of where we're at right now. And I don't know if City Manager Dirks wants to add to it or.
Just one quick comment. I'm going to go back to this one. Again, it's a nice design. It has aged a bit. And with our overall aesthetic, the main issue when you have the big columns here, those are structural supports. And the rehab project in 2009 removed the whole sign, put in concrete. They were direct buried in the dirt. So put them on concrete gave us more years out of it. But you have a problem when there is rot, deterioration, or other issues. It's the full sign structure. And what we talked about with this is more kind of, okay, maybe one piece is deteriorating. Great. It's not necessarily structural per se, insofar as you can just bolt in a new piece and really make it more resilient, more durable into the future. So that's kind of the look and feel of why we're going to, I call it something like this design, where the timbers are decorative. I mean, they'll support the main sign and things, but certainly able to be more serviceable.
And if you also look in our council chambers here, I mean, this definitely supports that, or the entryway as you enter the City Hall and Civic Center. This design definitely supports that. But I'm here to answer any questions. And again, it was just more a project update, kind of where we're at. We did try for the design build, just didn't work. So the plan is now to separate that design and construction documents, and then the actual construction RFP will go out. We're going to utilize our engineering contract services that we have with RH2 to keep that work order under $20,000 and see where we can go.
Well, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
I asked you when you came by to look at my neighbor's sewer line, a couple of weeks ago. And I said, why don't you drive around and look at my rock wall that I put up? And then maybe you saw my arbor that I built, with all the metal structure and all of that kind of stuff. It's, it doesn't look like this, but it has the same kind of features. And I was looking at City Hall and I took these kind of features and I put that into my arbor. And if you built this down at Public Works and then had it all set up and ready to go, and then, hauled it down there and then plopped it onto that structure that you built separately, you would, that would be another option too. Then you're not going to stop the traffic while you're building this. That's just a first thought that I had with that. But this is great. The caps across the top make it last longer. I did the same thing with mine. I put caps on the top made out of metal. Sorry. And so I just see this lasting a very long time and doing exactly what you're talking about.
And I also wanted to add, Counselor, sorry if
No, go
I
ahead.
interrupted you.
I'm
So Mayor, I know you're on the phone, Counselor, you're on the phone, but as we get into this design phase and as we move forward, we'll bring to council the conceptual designs
Yeah.
for your approval. So.
Mayor,
It's the conceptual of the conceptual.
Sure.
Mayor, Councilor Min, any comments, questions?
John, I just want to say I really appreciate you putting the goals on your presentation, like what goals it helps me like center the project. I really appreciate that. And I just wanted to say this looks great. I love it. And I can't wait to see it. The plan sounds great too.
Thank you.
I'll reinforce what Councillor Clark said. I think this is a good design. In fact, I think it's a great design to start with. A canvas basalt on the bottom makes all kinds of sense. And the option here of how to construct it too is important, and replacement pieces. And as Councillor Clark said, this could be built in maybe two pieces and dropped once the foundation is done. And I just got to make a comment on the Wood Village, and I know this is all conceptual right now, but I like the looks of that sign. It's kind of a retro look. And I think it, on our streets, and I know we've got these two signs up on Halsey now. One on Halsey, and I forget, there's the other one maybe on Halsey too, but that took place of our rounds, welcome to Wood Village signs. But I think it's a great look all the way around. So thanks for the work and the resourcefulness of reaching out to Tillamook.
Yeah.
And,
You guys bring back any ice cream?
Funny enough, what we were doing, once we didn't get any bids and we're trying to scramble, like how to give some direction to RH2 to get, kind of an estimate, what's the wheelhouse. We just did a Google search of like gateway signs and this popped up like, that says Tillamook on it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we made a few calls.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, in regards to that actual sign, we don't know if we'll use that one exactly in the gateway sign, but that is the one now as you're entering Gleason, Sandy, Halsey, Caroline designed that in-house. And again, it's kind of a retro take on a modern feel. Again, I love it. Has our tagline in there. So.
And they get a lot more rain than we do, don't they? They get a
Well,
lot
they
more
sure
rain
do.
than we do, right?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, just kind of to the mayor's comment, I know this is way ahead, but the sign looks great and it looks inviting and it looks, it in some form, it looks updated. So, and then just a quick, just again, preconception of a design, will there be some of that corridor? And I know that's, maybe not out of the question, but again, we do have some of those elements already in designs to the park entrance and things like that.
And so that's where we're going with that Corbett basalt, the timbers, the metal. The look, the main streets on Halsey look and feel, I'm not sure we're going to get conclusion on that or a full buy-in from all three communities. We know those are common elements along the corridor and certainly for Wood Village. So we figured that's good to use for the gateway.
And then now, and again, I was more saying our portion of
Yes.
Halsey, making that cohesiveness.
The byway,
Yeah,
City
and
Hall,
so
the building across the street, there'll be
It's
Tanny's.
really
I mean,
good in, yeah.
Well,
so.
remember now, Troutdale spent $1.4 million on theirs, and it's just one, right? That's the other thought on that.
I'm sorry, what? I need to start making signs.
Yes, Troutdale spent $1.4 million on their fish crossing the one street.
Oh, it is really nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
One more thing, just to reinforce that you've already said, is raising the sign up and building and designing it so that we can hang the banners, the seasonal banners is really important. So nice design work so far.
Thank you.
Awesome. With no further discussion, we'll move to Donald L. Robertson Park restroom design / build.
Replacement. Yeah.
Well, on the theme of what was supposed to
Wow.
be
That's a deep subject.
a bid award, as now is to say project update, and as a spoiler alert from earlier, we don't have a bid award because people aren't bidding on it. So we want to give an update on the restroom replacement. This particular photo is when the current restroom was actually placed in almost 20 years ago, prefabbed unit. So current restroom, nearly 20 years old. We've had to do some maintenance on it, some sealing around the roof line. We've had some plumbing issues. Things are getting obsolete. So we're having to, restructure the plumbing, spending, several $1,000s on a facility that isn't meeting the current needs, isn't optimal for several reasons. One, just the use of the park has changed. And then as we talked, when we were budgeting this, the traditional men's side, women's side doesn't necessarily work in a park setting as well when you have small children or maybe elderly people that need assistance or people just wanting additional privacy to use a restroom. That individual unit is more of an optimal way to go. We have $550,000 in funding for this project, 125 from urban renewal, 300,000 from ARPA. Those two are important because they have timelines associated with those. For urban renewal, it'd be great to get that expended by April. For ARPA, we have a little bit longer, but again, the project needs to roll forward. The remainder was coming from general fund at about $125,000. So this is, concepts of the restroom that we're looking to get here. So certainly the layout, going from, we have 6 stalls now in terms of, 3 in men's, 3 in women's. This would give 8 individual units, 2 of which would be ADA accessible. We generally like this building up in the upper part, but maybe add the timbers in this one. If costs get prohibitive, maybe something a little more similar to this one, low, but try to bring in some timbers, get rid of the racing stripe. But again, try to make it fit in with the aesthetics that we have at the park and civic center. And the unfortunate part was no one wanted to bid on that. So we did an RFP in August, bids were due September 12th. One firm did come out to do kind of a site visit, understand the project a little bit more. No one bid on it. So we reached out to both the firm that visited as well as a couple of prefab firms. And what we got was a bit startling in that even in a prefab for the building alone, figure $650,000. That did not include site prep, removal of the current one. I haven't asked the prefab place that built this one if there's a market for them. There is not. We looked back in time when that was placed, that project, including a change order, was $110,000. Mark that up for inflation, you're still around $200,000. So the fact that you can't get it now for, $650,000 is quite startling. So we don't give up though. What did we do? We went to our friends at LRS Architects who designed this lovely space and said, what's it going to take to design an 8-unit restroom? CMU block, pretty simple stuff. They came back with a rough estimate of about $80,000. So what we'd have to do basically is resubmit the RFP as a design award, let it, any firm design on it because of the potential costs there. And similar to the sign, we'll do a separate firm for a design and then a build. In talking with some firms, they said the building cost for the prefab is like $250,000 to $300,000. They have more costs in transporting the crane, hooking up utilities, et cetera. LRS, when they reached out to a construction firm, put the construction at $500,000. So there is a bit of risk in going for a design and letting out a design at call $80,000 in that when we put that design out for construction, if that construction comes in at $500,000, $600,000, it's out of our budget. On the flip side, we do have to spend at least $125,000 urban renewal dollars, again, preferably before April. Otherwise, we get into arbitrage where we've earned too much interest. We've been holding the funds for too long. There could be penalties on that interest earning. So that's why we're trying to get the gateway done. We're buying the big belly solar garbage cans, trying to get some stuff moving to spend down that last remaining bond fund so we don't have to pay any penalties on that. In terms of the ARPA funds, again, let's just say hypothetically, we get a design, we love it. Maybe there's some bid options for, how expensive it could be, but it comes in just too high. We can always put in the 300 in ARPA towards the sewer line. I mean, there's flexibility with ARPA for a little bit. But also just looking at, we probably won't have an opportunity to get that kind of funding for a restroom facility. Don't know when we'll get it again. So we'll do what we can to get a nice construction documents, and hopefully, again, since it's no longer design build, we can maybe get some smaller firms that want to bid on this, because again, it's one of those, it's probably a nice project for a smaller firm. It's too small for a big firm. There's also the option, perhaps, let's just say again, no one bids on it or the bids are really high. We act as a general and we start subbing out all the little bits and pieces. We do the demo of that one. We bring in a contractor to relocate utilities, bring another contractor to do the concrete work, bring another contractor to do the block work. I mean, there are still options. They'll just take a bit longer. So in an ideal world, we'll get the design kind of awarded October, first part of November, with bidding it out hopefully January time. And in an ideal world, completed by June 30. So that's the update. What are the questions, concerns, and general comments I can help answer?
I have a suggestion right off. That would be to not have this one hauled off and destroyed, but to keep it for our other park. And then that way, we kill two birds with one stone. We have it for another park, and then it gets it out of this one's way, which I see as a big part of the problem of why nobody wants to tackle it. I realize that there's a storage fee problem or a storage problem with it, but maybe John can come up with something for that, you know, where we can keep it. But just as a thought on that part, then I'm sorry to just drop right in.
No,
there,
go. Mayor, Councilor Min.
Yeah, I'm also shocked at how much that costs. Maybe I should get into the restroom building business as well. But I do want to comment on the design. I love that the doors open out. And the reason that's important to me is working for the county. If I've learned that if there's a medical emergency in public bathrooms and they fall against the door, you can't get in. It's difficult to get in. And so that's why I think it's really important. And just, I think, for cleaning and things like that. So I really like that. And yeah, I feel like the plan is super solid, even if you're the general contractor.
Mayor?
Yeah, I also like the plan here. Get the design done. Spend that money. And then we can take the next step. And if we need to be our own general, then we work that through. But at least we have the plans so we can legitimately go out and shop this to some smaller contractors. And we have it in hand. And I think it's going to be much more attractive for a smaller contractor to say, you know, I think I can do that. And then if we have to work with that contractor, do some of the demo, if that's what we have to end up doing, if the idea of recycling that existing restroom is feasible. But I do like the direction you're going with this. Move the project forward.
I agree.
And to Councilor Clark's, comments, I mean, it does feel, while this facility no longer serves our purpose in an optimal way, again, it's not well heated. We can't lock it, those kinds of things. Another community may want it, and maybe the fee is just, you have to remove it. So I think there are some things we can explore starting, now as we're going through the design, to set up for success, hopefully with a successful bid.
You can always reverse those doors too, if you needed to open out.
My only question is, if it's too much for a smaller, business to kind of do it, have we thought of downsizing it to fit their needs a little bit? I know optimally we would want 8 restrooms, but what if we did 6 and that was more within their scope of work?
2 parts to that. The first one, but it was too much for a small one. It was a design build part. They may be able to build it, but not design it because they don't have in-house design or have to, otherwise contract that out. So we're taking care of that part. In terms of then going to 6 units, we were told by some of the prefabs that would be a way to bring down the cost, but then you're losing out on the expansion, which is part of the nexus behind urban renewal funds, is we're actually adding some capacity here. So we're really trying to keep it at the 8 units.
No, makes total sense.
And we were looking at park uses, how
Yeah.
now we're adding amenities, upgrading
Oh, yeah.
the field, adding.
just look at
you know,
that.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. It's just
More visitors.
Yeah.
So more visitors.
Yeah.
Need
Makes
need
sense.
more options.
Makes
build it
sense.
and they'll come. And that's what we've
And that's
got.
what we've done.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it's happening.
Yeah.
awesome. Well, it seems staff has direction.
Yep,
on which
we'll
way
go
to
ahead and recraft the RFP, get that re-released and bring back a bid for the design.
And then clarification on the ARPA funds, as long as if it's already committed before
December of 2024.
December of 2024.
We have a contract in place, then we have until 26.
Yeah, so
to spend it.
a lot more flexibility on ARPA, way less on urban renewal. So we're really trying to push those dollars out first.
Perfect. Okay. Now we have the director's report with Public Works.
I do.
All right. Good evening again, Mayor, City Councilors. You're stuck with me for about another 5-10 minutes. So it's nice to get back into the groove of providing a once a month update. So this is your September 2023 Public Works update. And as you can see in the pictures, I added the new sign there and disc golf. Yeah. So just some of the projects that, staff have been working on the last, I guess, 4 to 6 weeks since the last report. Code compliance, definitely August ramped up. So this year total, we've had 239 cases. Building ramped up too. With permits and inspections. Water consumption, almost 20 million gallons consumption and production. Wow. Well, it was August production was over 21 million. And our system loss has dropped with, eyes out in the field. And thank you to Becky and Erica that there was some water loss that wasn't being calculated over the years. And just having new eyes out in the field, out at the wells and looking at, the different assets we have, it was great. So we have our water loss right around, 10.5%. So, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Questions out, Mayor, Councilor Men?
No questions for me.
John, just 2 comments. One, it was really nice, and I don't know what happened to my screen, but I'm just looking at myself right now and I don't see anybody else. But and you can hear me, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, it was really a pleasure to see that one of our employees helped us design that disc golf course. So that's pretty cool. And the second thing is just another shout out to Public Works. Since I'm not out walking in the morning, my wife was out the other day and walking, and she was picking up that litter on Wood Village and hauling more back than she should have. But the Public Works, and John, I don't know who it was, and she didn't get a name, but pulled up beside her and said, let me help you with that material. We can take that down and dispose of it. She was almost home, but just really nice outreach to whether they knew it was the mayor's wife or not. I have no reason. I have no idea, but to reach out to a citizen like that is really speaks well for the city.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and thanks for that feedback. It's nice to, get positive feedback with our staff. Most of the time if my phone rings, it's, not pleasant. So to get positive feedback and hear that our staff is out there helping folks in the community. Wow, thank you.
Councilor Clark?
My only comment was, this is my first year of not getting a letter. from having something wrong, trees needing to be cut, or my grass is never too long, but having stuff growing over somewhere. And I was trying to be very vigilant this year. And so I was really happy that I didn't get a letter this summer.
Well, plenty of letters went out.
I saw that. Yeah.
And
200 and
I also wanted to add, I didn't have it in here though. We're looking at just for information, planning a Parks Commission meeting in October. So I'll be reaching out to Parks Commission members tomorrow with some dates, and we're going to try and get that scheduled about mid-October-ish. So.
okay.
My only comments is it seems, the system loss is getting down to what was kind of the norm per se. And then that's good. That's good that it seems that our investment has panned out to some degree in the new update system and things like that.
Yes, and yes, and yes. And like I said, it's just thanks to Becky and Erica and just having new eyes on our system and, hey, what's that? Or what's that doing? Or what's, and then tracking things. Okay, well, if it's losses here, is it before the meter? Is it after the meter? And just, again, asking questions, just folks ask, our staff asking questions and helping each other out.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of rereads that were up in my area, which is unusual. I don't know what that was about. I didn't ask or anything, but I just saw that there was quite a few rereads on my street. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think so either.
Maybe
I was on vacation, but yeah.
What's a reread? What is that? What?
A reread is when we do our monthly meter reading and you have to.
Oh, you have to reread it.
You reread the meter. What we actually think is it's not so much the meter replacement, but the register part of actually meter and or register part. Changing some of those out of some have prematurely failed. Some of it under warranty, some we've just went out and replaced, been proactive. So we're trying to get ahead of those issues. So we don't have rereads or dead meters out there.
I have just a couple more comments. First of all, hi, Jan. It's, the IT department in John's house, maybe. I did want to just say, like, the disc golf thing is awesome. I've seen lots of people out there. Mikey's pumped about it. And then to kind of piggyback on what the mayor said, like Becky, Erica, dream team, like dream team for sure. I've worked in government for a while now in my career, and like just so great. And then Mary also, yeah, just like every time I interact with the staff at Wood Village, they're clear, kind, helpful, like, personable. It's very consistent, and I'm really proud of that. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Last comment, just like the mayor mentioned about the disc golf. I had someone reach out to me and say that they really enjoyed the course and the course was really thought out. So kudos to everybody that took the time to do it, because it is, as we said before, we build it, they'll come, and it's good to see that folks are proud and are exploring our parks more, because a lot of folks are like, oh, I didn't know this was up here. And I was like, well, keep going. There's more. So.
Yeah.
And we have it marked on the new park signs that you see dotted around, and we're currently still working on, I'll call it more permanent disc golf signs. Right now, it's just some kind of stuff taped or laminated over there directing to the next hole, but we're working on more permanent signs for that. And we actually did get a Facebook comment over the weekend about someone appreciating the investment and use of tax dollars to expand recreation opportunities in the park. And last thing about disc golf, we're working with one of the designers who's just a disc golf aficionado to actually do a little lesson as part of Pumpkin Fest, getting, kids or other guests interested in disc golf. He has some portable things and extra discs. So, trying to do a little mini disc golf lesson so people can enjoy the new course. And hopefully, again, part of our signage, there's one hole that's really close to a neighbor, it's the tee pad, I guess, is close to the neighbor. So we're putting up a sign just being mindful of the neighbors, because we want to be good neighbors to our neighbors. And hopefully they can enjoy the course without the disruptions of the course. So we're trying to be mindful about walkers on the trail. And then there's one hole that's kind of close to getting tee pad close to the neighbors. there shouldn't be any discs going in the neighbors. It was designed very thoughtfully away from the neighbors.
No broken windows yet, huh?
Not yet.
Well, that's great. Thank you, John.
All right, thank you.
All right, now we'll go with the finance report.
Council President and Councilors, Mr. Mayor. Finance Director's report was included in your packet. I don't have any comments. It's still pretty early in the year. Just really notice any trends or to highlight anything other than I think we doubled the amount of doubled the budget for what we thought we were going to get in interest. And we are rapidly on pace to exceed that. So interest rates have continued to climb. Our balances have not declined as much as we had anticipated. So that's good news. The business income tax is still going strong, which is kind of our most variable revenue. But other than that, I don't have any comments, but I'm here for any questions or comments that you might have.
Mayor, Councilor Men, any questions, comments?
No, thanks, Seth.
Thank you.
No bad
Counselor?
checks.
We didn't bounce any checks this month.
We're good.
All right, thank you. Now we'll go with the city manager report.
All right. Thank you all very much. A few updates, some on the APP, some just general updates. So first, at your next meeting, we're going to have a discussion of kind of an update where we're at with the fire discussion, kind of both as a regional approach as well as our approach with City of Gresham. There's been some preliminary conversations with Gresham, and I think there's a framework in which we can operate, and I'll be talking about that at the next meeting. Your second meeting in October, we'll also have hopefully a bit on where we're at with flood safety. I think we're at a reasonable spot from what it seems like. We're at a reasonable spot with that, and hopefully that can move forward through its process, and we can kind of be done with it, and it'll do its thing. But we'll talk more in detail. Second meeting in October. Also at the second meeting in October, some of our more, I don't want to call them complaints, community concerns that have come in have been around the homeless, whether it's some of the vehicles that are a little more regular around the park or along Sandy Boulevard or other places around the city. And so we'll be working closely with the HOPE team on what can we do to. The Joint Office has yet to really provide meaningful, reliable resources to East County. And so what can we do in the interim until there actually are services here for people to take it, to use. And so what we're probably going to have either the joint, the HOPE team, whether it's Captain Nasville or myself on behalf of, talk about the legal framework that we're operating in, why we can't do some things that maybe other places in other states do, because we're under the Ninth Circuit Court. And plus we have actually state legislation that, I don't want to say ties our hands. It's very prescriptive what we can and can't do. And I think it'd just be a good conversation to bring that back up, both just so everyone's on the same page about what our constraints are, as well as the public can understand, what we can and can't do, and hopefully continue to advocate for, there are certain specific needs that we have, and we just don't have them yet. And how do we best advocate to get those needs? So that'll be the second meeting in October. Speaking of needs that aren't being met, we have met, John and I, with Multnomah County Transportation. We meet regularly. Specifically, we talked about 238th, also Arata Road, and the lack of any kind of maintenance or care of those facilities. I mentioned this in my weekly update that the county doesn't have a plan for maintaining it. And so we're kind of giving it a think of what we can do as terms of a next step to elevate that, to get some sort of level of service. I mean, you look at 238th, a year ago, beautiful roadway, newly planted trees, etc. You've got dead and dying and broken trees, vegetation taller than the trees, broken railing. It's a disaster that doesn't reflect on our service level or our community, and it's not okay. You go to Arata, the bioswales aren't even bioswales anymore. Almost all the inlets are full. And even if they were unplugged, which our crews actually will go out and kind of, kick the dirt, the garbage, the debris out of them, there's no more swale to them. They're full of I'll just call it junk, not so much trash per se, but just vegetative, natural junk. There's no plan, and it's just not acceptable. So we may have county transportation here in front of you to explain that further. We may try to go a different avenue. We're trying to give it a think, trying to be on the positive side of partners while holding accountability, because we're not seeing it there. So more to come.
Have you received a letter on that?
Have they?
Yeah, have they received a letter on that? I wondered.
That may be part of our think is an actual,
Yeah,
you're not doing your job. It's not okay from our standards. I mean, we maintain already some of their stuff.
Yeah.
238th is just, the bioswales are a different animal, and we were told specifically don't touch them by the county. And then 238th, it's gotten to a point you can't just take a little stirrup hoe and kind of kick off some of the stuff. I mean, you probably need traffic control, close a lane to actually clean out and grub those out. Plus, if you're on, I'll call it the west/south multimodal pathway, half of it's covered in blackberries and other debris. Like there's no level of acceptability with it. And just want to let you all know we are aware of it, and we're trying to be diplomatic in how we're handling it. So it's not to burn a bridge, but to also get
Sure.
accountability.
well, we've known for 75 years that whenever you build a boulevard, it really increases maintenance. And when I've seen all these bioswales being built all over the place, and they're continuing to build them all over the place, they're never going to have the money to maintain them.
Mm-mm.
And I keep shaking my head at all of this. And where I'm not allowed to have things grow over the edge of the curb line, and I have 1,000 feet of curb line at my house. I've measured it. And this is why it's very typical for me to receive a letter each year, because I'm not maintaining it all the way around. And it can get overwhelming really quick at my house. And so then when I see that going on a county street, I kind of like going, it's not very fair that I get a letter and the county doesn't.
And we're hearing that too.
Okay.
And Greg, and I just want the council to know that we did receive a letter from a resident in the community that was on record when the staff did have one of their meetings, and it was submitted. So they did get a letter that came to me as the mayor, and it was submitted at one of the staff's meeting with the county.
Yeah, it was probably the most disappointing response I've received out of county transportation in the years we've been working. Used to say with them, I'll just say working with them. They said there is no plan. And they said, what can we do? I said, tell us when it's going to be cleaned up. And they said, we can't.
So I think the bottom line here is we have to have a plan. So
Yeah, we're giving it a think, and we'll get it addressed.
Thanks, Greg.
On better, happier
Yeah.
news.
What you got?
As we've touched on, we're working on the trunk line stuff. We had it televised this past week. Still preliminary results are going to be reviewed by Arch too, et cetera, but it looks really good. The condition of the line looks good. It'll help in the steps of what we need to do with it. It's just nice to know that this major asset is functioning. Just needs some bigger line. So that's moving along nicely. And it's been a while since I talked about the climate-friendly equitable communities rules from DLCD that really mandated, a lot of, especially for the metro area, parking restrictions and certain development restrictions. We're already under what's called Parking A, which we can't mandate parking within a half mile of a major transit corridor. Parking B technically took effect July 1. That was really about restricting new parking lots. So if a developer wanted to build parking, there was a whole laundry list of stuff that developer had to do to construct the parking lot. There was a little waiver part of there that you can extend your deadline from July 1 of 23 out several years. So I submitted that, and our new deadline is now June of 2025. So we have some time to really put together some thoughtful approaches, see what the other communities are doing, and put together an update to our zoning and development code. Also, what was good news, our transportation system plan had to be updated. I think it was by 2024 with whole new metrics and standards. That got pushed out to 2028. And that was in part to tie it into regional TSP work that will be going on. So we were granted that by DLCD, which I think is a great thing. So that was good news. And then, yeah, that's it for my update. What other questions, comments do you have?
Mayor, Councilor Men, any questions, comments?
Nope.
Just a comment here, and I want to thank Council President Real Campos for covering a couple meetings for me the last couple of weeks. I hope that doesn't continue, but he's a great stand-in.
Have Jeff Condit too. Tim, if he has any comments.
I was just asking if you had comments on what Greg was mentioning. No, I know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was asking for any comments to my report.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
No further questions. Jeff, do you have a report for us?
No, I don't. I'm still waiting for the legislature to publish the session laws, where I can go in and see what's been amended. To give you one preview of coming attractions, however, the legislature did finally increase the procurement thresholds for public bodies. So there's a certain level of thresholds under which you can direct appoint a contractor, and then you have a certain level that you do an informal process and then a formal RFP process. And it has been 10,000, 150,000. Those have been the thresholds. They increased them to 25,000 and 250,000. So that will give the staff a little bit more flexibility in contracting. And it's always a balance between encouraging maximum competition while at the same time being cost effective when you're awarding contracts. And they haven't increased for 10 years, so it's about time. So more on that later, as soon as I can get the session laws and see what else they've done. They didn't do too much because of the huge interregnum when the Republicans walked out. So a lot of bills that were out there did not get finally heard. So, but that one, it passed, and that will be beneficial for the city. That goes into effect January 1st.
Thank you. Mayor, council report. Mayor, do you have anything to report?
No, I jumped ahead there. So no, I do not.
Councilor Mend?
I don't.
Councilor Clark?
No, sir.
I just want to mention the upcoming events we have. So October 7th, we have the Play East 5K Costume Dash. It'll be Saturday here at Donaldson Robertson Park with the run starting at 9. And then Pumpkin Fest, October 28th, here again at the park at 11. And I'll just quickly mention, I know last meeting I had mentioned that Gresham was having a summit that got postponed, and we'll wait to see when they put that on, if they put that on. But we'll stay in touch and see what happens.
Thanks, Councilor Campos Rios. I just wanted to say I won't make it to the fun run, which is such a bummer. I was pretty pumped about that, but I will be at the Pumpkin Fest. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. And then I'll just quickly mention, I won't be here next meeting, October 10th. I will be at a conference. So yeah, I will not be here. Anything else for the good of the order?
Well, thank you all for the kind words about the team and your positive interactions. That really means a lot. Thank you. And we'll make sure that gets passed along to the team as well.
Perfect.
Yeah. Wood Village
right.
is the best.
Yes.
I know that for sure now.
All right. With that, we are adjourned.
All right, good night, everybody.
Have a good
Good
evening.
John. Night, Lena.
Have a